What were bathrooms like in the Wild West? Wild West bathrooms did not have proper bathtubs, and most were not formal rooms. Rather, settlers, ranchers, cowboys, and the like used the outhouse, the pot, and whatever natural options were available. When it came to keeping calm, the men and women of the American West could hide behind a tree. Later, settlers and others built Old West houses for the same purpose, although many of the unpleasant features of these structures were not attractive. All in all, using the cowboy bathroom was an adventure in itself, with unique sights and smells. Before toilet paper, corn on the cob and newspaper could do the job. As a relatively modern luxury, toilet paper was not available in the Old West. Alternatives were all available, including grass, old corn on the cob, or newspaper shreds. Corn was part of the diet, economy, and culture of the American West. Growing up in Nebraska in the mid-1800s, Belle Madison remembered using corn cobs and husks as toilet paper, firewood, and even toys. Using corn cobs for sweeping was effective. When the users were left hanging from the outbuilding, they caught them on their way. After they had done their business, people swung and pulled the cob repeatedly on sensitive body parts at different angles. When toilet paper was introduced, many Westerners still preferred corn on the cob to paper alternatives. The other option, whatever was available, was to use nothing. The outbuildings were just 4 walls across a deep hole. Outbuildings or antechambers were placed away from the main residence and were usually only a 5-6 foot deep depression in the ground surrounded by 4 walls and preferably a roof. The outdoor spaces, usually 3-4 square feet in size, had no heat or light and very little ventilation. When the hole in the outhouse filled up or the smell became strong, it was covered and the outhouse was moved to another location. The same rudimentary walls were placed over the new hole. Outdoor toilets were cracked wooden boxes. Outbuildings built primarily of wood, although roofs may be metal, can be dangerous. The wooden seats were basically boxes with oval holes cut in them. The seats were hopefully smooth, but there was no guarantee. Seats, doors, and walls presented a splintering hazard, especially after repeated use and exposure to the elements. Even corn on the cob, newspaper, and early toilet paper products can contain splinters, prompting Northern Tissue to advertise their product as sliver-free. Only in 1935. Private rooms were disinfected with alkali or lime. Detergent or lime was used to reduce external odors. Both can be thrown into the hole after use. In general, lime was considered a good disinfectant and was often added in abundance to urine or discharge. Lime was quite cheap and available, and was also used to wash the interiors of outdoor spaces to make them healthier and more attractive. Also, the detergent used as a disinfectant worked well to dissolve the waste. There were a lot of flies and unpleasant smells, especially in hot weather. As the trash piled up, the smell of the outbuilding began to improve. This in turn attracted flies and other insects. No amount of detergent or lime can keep odors or insects at bay, especially during the hot summer months. When it was hot, trips to the outdoors were necessarily short. When the flies were ticking at the bottom, there was an urgent desire to take care of things and get away. Flies attracted to outdoor spaces also invaded living spaces and rushed to food and other items when there were few window walls. Flies weren't the only bugs outdoor users had to watch out for. Spiders can bite exposed flesh and mosquitoes can hit outdoor users as they go about their business. There were holes in the front doors, but they weren't crescent-shaped. In comics and other media, crescent moons carved into exterior doors may have been carved into some exterior doors, but they were not universal. In fact, there is no written or photographic evidence before 1930 to support the appearance of crescents on doors. Some sources indicate that the crescents indicated that the outbuildings were for women. A representative of the moon goddess Luna was a symbol that offered guidance to illiterate visitors to the outdoors. Outbuildings for men were marked with asterisks. The holes in the front doors may have been useful for determining who was or wasn't there, but they also let in light and much-needed air. They also act as keys to open the door to the outbuilding. Thundermug chamber pots were invaluable in the winter. Visiting the outhouse in winter was not without its challenges. During the cold months, the waste apparently froze and accumulated more quickly, reaching the top of the hole in the process. Going outside in the cold didn't appeal either. As an alternative to cooking outdoors, the inhabitants of the American West used chamber pots. Chamber pots, called thunder cups, were kept near or under the bed. If it was used at night, its contents were thrown into a nearby secret water source, or simply thrown out the window in the morning. Bathrooms on the train were shared between men, women, and immigrants. When settlers went west, they often traveled by train. Passengers first used the services at stops on their journey. As journeys became longer, trains had to meet people's basic needs. In the mid-1800s, some trains introduced small bathrooms for passengers, although even the amenities for first-class passengers were rudimentary by today's standards. The toilets in the trains had two rooms, a toilet and a dressing room. A man's wardrobe, what modern observers would call a toilet, often contained a wooden box with an opening at the top. If you use a chute, human waste will fall onto the rollers. Men and women had washrooms, but women had nicer lockers that might be equipped with tickets. Immigrants on the train were not given a box or a seat, but had a wooden flap in the floor that opened onto the tracks below. Some outdoor areas had several holes. The outdoor spaces were used by men, women, and children of all ages. Instead of having multiple advantages, some outbuildings simply had multiple holes opened to house people of various sizes. The multi-hole outbuilding was not to be used by more than one person at a time. The three-hole outhouse had large openings for men, smaller seats for women, and even smaller wooden openings for children. The outhouse with two holes only had a larger seat for adults and a smaller one for children. Often, the bath was just a forest. Using an outbuilding or thunder was not always convenient or necessary, especially when a forest or body of water was sufficient. In the countryside, there was no real danger of going into the trees when nature called. However, placing human waste in a river or similar waterway can transfer pollutants to a downstream neighbor. There was also a danger if the outbuilding was placed too close to the water source. At the end of the 19th century, there were several two-story outbuildings. Built by Samuel Gamel in Gaze, Illinois in 1869, the outhouse was 2 stories tall and may have been the first of its kind. Two more two-story outbuildings were built around the same time, one in Phelps, New York in 1869 and the other in 1871. In Belle Plaine, Minnesota. The building built by Moses Barlow in New York was of brick, while the others were of wood. Several other multi-story outbuildings in the United States can be dated to the late 1800s. Regardless of the number, two-story outbuildings, such as Gaze, had seating on both levels. The debris from above fell into a pit on the ground behind the false wall. This prevented users in the rooms below from catching unwanted surprises. Outbuildings were still so common in the 1930s that they were part of President Roosevelt's New Deal. Building outbuildings was one of the tasks of the Works Progress Administration, WPA, the New Deal program that put millions of Americans to work in the late 1930s and early 1940s. The WPA built 2.3 million outbuildings across the United States utilizing the sanitary private design. The outbuildings built by the government were designed as buildings 3.5 feet square, placed over ditches 4.5 feet deep. They had metal roofs, on concrete or wooden slabs and protected ventilation. The outbuildings, ideally located away from water bodies and built with quality materials, were built larger than the original concept. Many had 2 holes and space for a lime bucket. Lack of plumbing, the Wild West lacked modern plumbing systems. Outhouses did not have running water, flush toilets, or sewage systems. Waste collected in a pit or trench beneath the structure, where it would decompose over time. Outdoor elements, outhouses were exposed to the elements, which meant that using them during inclement weather or in extreme temperatures could be quite uncomfortable. In the harsh winter, for example, the seats might be extremely cold. Gender separation, in some cases, there were separate outhouses for men and women. However, in many smaller settlements, a single outhouse served both genders. Historical preservation. Today, some well-preserved outhouses from the Wild West era can be found in historical sites and museums, offering a glimpse into the past and the challenges of daily life in the 19th century. Overall, bathrooms in the Wild West were a reflection of the era's rugged and often challenging conditions. They were a necessity for sanitation but lacked the modern amenities and comforts we enjoy today. The use of outhouses was a testament to the resourcefulness and adaptability of the people who lived in the Wild West during that time.